I did not mean to do that, but here we go. All right, so let's make sure and test out the people that are here. If you can hear us, I'm gonna start the music in the background and tell me how that goes. Yeah, no?
Yeah, very soft.
Let me try plugging in my earphones. Make sure that's all good.
I lost my beat. Ticket for sleeping in the willow tree. Cows in water 3 feet high and rising. How high's the water, mama? 4 feet high and rising. How high's the water, papa? She said it's 4 feet high and rising.
All right, that was our theme music. I'm not sure if you could hear it on there because I had my speakers off. Anybody tell me what that song was?
I cannot.
Can you tell who the singer was, or could you even hear the song?
Barely hear it.
Okay, well then I won't worry about it. I was going to start with my quiz about the music when we got started. We still have 5 minutes before we officially start. That was Johnny Cash, 5 Feet High and Rising. So I'll stop the music. It's not working on there as well as I want it to. So I actually have an entire set of music about water, floods, rain. I always think it's kind of fun to start out with music and relaxing, but if it's not going to work today, it's not going to work. Is my sound okay with my voice and everything going now? All right, guys, what do you see on my screen right now? Do you see my screen?
The flood after fire.
All right, great. Here's our advertisement for the day for the NFIP insurance and flood after fire. We'll start out with that. We've still got another 4 minutes till we officially start, but we want everybody to remember, especially here in Utah, we have our friends from Mississippi with us today, but our friends in Utah, we want to make sure that you remember with all the wildfires that are going on, that what comes after the fire is a greater chance of flood, and there are some exceptions for Bigger Waters 2012 that in certain circumstances, insurance, the 30-day wait for insurance can have an exception to it, and that's if that wildfire started on federal lands and that flood does get exacerbated if it happens, that comes off that federal land as well. So it's always wise to get flood insurance no matter what, but especially after a fire, even if you do have to have that 30-day waiting period, you want to make sure that you are getting that insurance and covering yourself because you do have a greater risk for flood. So as we're waiting to finish up or not finish up, but to get started, I wish we were finishing up, then I'd be all done. We've got 2 minutes. Not that I want this to be over with, because I enjoy my time with all of our communities and all the individuals that might be coming out to our webinar today. And as soon as the clock hits 9 o'clock, I'm going to start going through our dashboard and how you can check things out and what the rules of the day will be. Looks like so far we have 21 attendees. And just so you guys know, I can tell if you're not paying attention or if we're not on the front screen. This GoToWebinar has some great options, so I can know if I should give you your CFM credit or not, to know if you're participating. And we want you to be engaged. Even though we have limited engagement with this, we do have a chat room, but everything in the chat room and question and answer room will be screened and go through the staff here for this webinar. And I'll talk more about that in just a minute. And if you think you think this is a flood after fire and you're here for substantial damage, you're right that you are here for substantial damage. Class, we're just doing our advertisement about flood after fire because we are having such a rough fire season here in Utah and a lot of fires happening, a lot of homes and structures downhill, downstream from that fire, and you have a higher risk for flooding. So we would like you to share this and other advertisements that we have on your social media page. Reach out to me, Kathy Holder, after this webinar if you would like to get some of these flood after fire outreach materials and share those on your social media or web pages for your communities. We want to make sure we get that word out there that the best way they can mitigate their risk, besides all the little things the community you guys will be telling them to do, is to cover themselves with flood insurance after that wildfire. And we are at 8:30. I feel like I'm on a radio show right now with this headset on. I haven't done that for a lot of years. Anyway, here we go. We're going to start out. Yes, you're in the right place. This is a GoToWebinar Dashboard Basics for Substantial Damage workshop, and this is the Utah Floodplain Program. And we're here to give you a great lesson today about substantial damage. Going to go over a lot of things with that Mississippi, their NFIP coordinator and their staff are here to help us today, and I'll have them introduce themselves. In just a second, I just want to go over what you can do to make sure you're ready to see this as you would want to see it. So this, hopefully, yours might look a little bit different. I took a picture when we were in practice yesterday. But if you see, this is the dashboard that you will be using. And this little orange arrow here will open and close it. If you all of a sudden find that it's closed up, there'll still be a little arrow. You can push that and open it up. You also have your option. You have a few more limited options. At some point, we may open up your mic. Right now, just ask your questions in the chat room, and we will have all those questions come up to us as a staff that's running this webinar, and we will try to either answer them outwardly in this webinar with everyone else listening, or we may do it in the back room. If there's some questions that we don't get to while we're in the webinar, we will have your contact information, and if you want to make it even easier for us, put your contact information in with your question if we need to find you, but we can still find you. We have all your information. Sounds a little bit scary, right? So just make sure that if you want your question to be private, you don't want it read out loud, you don't want it shared, because we can share and put it back in the chat room with our answer if we think it's something that everybody would want to hear. Make sure you write private on it if you don't want us to put it back out there. Otherwise, we may share it with the entire group because it's a good question. And we think that's something everybody would like, should want to know. So you can see that you should have a chat area where you will go. There is a handouts area. And another cool thing about this, and I'll go to the next slide to show you, but if you see this little square that's going right there with a little arrow. If you click on that, you can break it out and have it in its own section. So if you want to open up something like your handout list, and we'd like you to download these handouts. These are all things that will be important to you and help you with the future. This bottom one here is the substantial improvement, substantial damage manual, and you really need to have a copy of that to use it for your community and dealing with your substantial damage. The other part we have here, this is the Utah NFIP Substantial Damage Program Plan that we recently written this last year at Utah. And what it basically is, and we'll talk about it more later, is a plan that you can use for your community, and it has these different sheets that go with it. So I'm going to move on here, and in case this is one that I had a problem with, in case you aren't seeing the full screen when we start presenting and you're like, oh, that's too small, you can literally go to this little bar that should be at the top, and you can use the zoom. So you can zoom, and if I go back, when was that on there? Okay, nope, it's not on there. That's just your chat questions. You can raise your hand. Oh, a very important piece that you all should know, this little button right here, I can see if you guys are paying attention. It actually gives me a report at the end of this. So if you want your CFM credits, if that's why you're here, you need to participate. We're going to have polls that we're going to send out to you. So that will be one counter, but also paying attention and having this screen in your foreground. I can tell if you aren't paying attention and aren't watching the screen, because right here it's going to show me that in my app that I have. So just fair warning, I can tell if you're paying attention, and it will give me a report at the end on how much you paid attention. So wanted you to be aware of that. You can choose to use one screen or two screen if you wanted to break it out and see our lovely faces as we're presenting today, or if you want to take also another thing, if you want to take a screenshot because you think that thing is so important, but we can give you a copy of presentation as well later. You just let us know if that's something you want, but make sure on this one that you do move to what you would like. So you can go to actual size, you can scale it to fit, or you can zoom to the percentage that you want. And like I said, if for some reason we don't get to all your questions, they will be saved and we can reach out to you after the webinar. And I'm gonna see if we have this activity available to us. And this is the first time I have tried this in a webinar setting. So if it doesn't work out and you guys don't have a pen, you can let me know in the chat area if you have a pen that shows up on your toolbar as we do this. And if you don't, then just answer the question in the chat room that's coming up of what this next thing will be. So I'm hoping you can use this and you can draw or put an arrow for this next question that I'm going to pull up here. So what type of organization do you represent? So if you can draw, and I will take that as an if, because I'm not sure if it's going to give you the option. I have the option. So I'm going to take a pen. When I looked at that pen, and I am state government, so I'm checking right there, that's where I am. And if you guys can get to a pen, please do let me know if this works out, because I'd like to be able to use this more in the future. This is the only one I have here today for an activity for you. And oh, let's see. It looks like you should be able to have a pen. I'm not seeing anybody being able to draw, but it does show next to your name that you, or do I have to click on that? Let me make sure. Yeah, you should have a pen, but I'm not seeing anybody drawing. How about you guys from Mississippi? Can you draw in here?
I don't have a pen.
Okay. Well, then go ahead and put it in the chat room where what organization you represent, what type of organization where you're coming in, so we can kind of see what our audience looks like that way. And I am going to send this over. Well, I'm going to go ahead and I think I'm going to make Stacy the presenter. We'll find out. Or Stacy, you can just take over.
Good morning, everybody. I'm trying to see if I can get my screen shared right quick.
And
Does everybody see my screen?
no, let me stop sharing mine. Maybe that's my problem.
All right.
Okay, I'm making you the presenter right now. You should be able to do it.
All right.
Now we see you.
Okay.
Yeah. And Stacy, before you get going on yours, could you introduce your team? And in case those that I forgot to introduce myself, I did earlier before the full thing started. I'm Kathy Holder, State Floodplain Manager for the state of Utah. And here we have our illustrious guests from Mississippi that we are very excited because they have a wealth of information that we don't have here in Utah. And we're leaning on them as one of our partners to teach us a lot about the substantial damage tool. And I will let them go ahead and introduce themselves more.
Good morning. My name is Stacy Ricks. I'm the state NFIP coordinator here in the state of Mississippi. We have a staff here, and I'll start with Garrett the clerk. Can you introduce yourself?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. My name is Gareth the Clerk. I am a floodplain management specialist with Mississippi Emergency Management. And part of our team is we divide the state up into different regions. And so I handle the northern part of the state and work with the communities when it comes to substantial damage as well as NFIP compliance.
Jonathan?
Good morning, everybody. I'm Jonathan Hughes. I work for MEMA as well. Just like Gareth just said, we divide the state up into regions, and I cover the southern region of the state. I work with communities for substantial damage, also NFIP compliance, and flood insurance and CRS, community rating system.
All right, Ramses, are you on?
Oh, if they're not in presenter mode, they may not be able to do it. I can go let him speak. What's the name? I can unmute them.
Ramses Sandifer.
Okay. Well, maybe I can.
Well, and that's okay. Ramses just started with us this week, so he's learning this program as we give it today. He is not a presenter, but we are looking for him to be able to take this program and go to the next level. He is going to be working with us in floodplain management. Are you there?
I believe so.
Yeah, we can hear you, Ramses.
Okay. Hello. Good morning. Like Stacy was saying, I'm new to the team. Learning as we go. Like I said, I'm a part of this process of learning sustainable damage processes throughout Mississippi as well as other areas, incorporating a lot of different tactics and practices to build sustainability within our region and area, and just looking forward to the learning process and helping not only our area but others as well.
All right, thank you, Ramses.
No problem. Thank you.
And I don't know if we can hear her. She may have. Jana, are you here? Jana Henderson is our Office of Mitigation Director here at MEMA. Can you speak, Jana?
She should be able to.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, wow. Thank you. I want to apologize for actually just logging in. We have a staff meeting every Tuesday and Thursday morning Zoom meeting. So I have my Zoom meeting staff on one screen and I have you all on another. So I want to thank the state of Utah for actually inviting us to help and assist with the training of the substantial damage estimate program. So if there's anything that we can do to help besides the training, please let us know. If it's something that you want to know that we have not covered, we will try to answer it. We are no experts. We just have a lot of experience in substantial damage and doing these assessments. So thank you again. If there's anything that you need from us, please just let us know.
Well, thank you. We appreciate yourself and your staff being here. You do bring a wealth of information to us that we're trying to build a better substantial damage program right now. And so we really appreciate your help. Thank you.
All right, and with that, that's basically the team here at Mississippi Emergency Management. We still have a few vacant positions here at MEMA, but a little background about us here at MEMA. Where do you find the Mississippi State Coordinating Office? As you have heard, we are in Mississippi Emergency Management Agency within the Office of Mitigation. Jana is the office director for the Office of Mitigation. The Office of Mitigation houses 3 bureaus: Floodplain Management, which I'm the Floodplain Management Bureau Director as the State Coordinating Officer, Hazard Mitigation Grants Bureau, and the Hazard Mitigation Planning Bureau. There are other offices throughout MEMA, but these are the ones where the State Floodplain Management Office is located. Whoops, went to. So you heard the team talk about districts. A little bit about MEMA. MEMA is divided up into 9 districts across the state. So each district will have a floodplain management specialist. Usually each floodplain management specialist will have 2 districts. They are responsible for the floodplain management activities inside that district, or the districts in which they cover. We do have some open positions, but also we have positions besides floodplain management, like Jonathan Hughes covers community rating system and flood insurance. So he is our go-to person when it comes to flood insurance and community rating system. Garrett, the clerk, is our letter of map change violations. He's the one that works closely with FEMA and the locals. Once a letter of map change violation has been possibly identified, he works to correct that with FEMA and the local government. He is also our mapping backup person. Also, you heard from Ramsey Sandifer. He will be taking District 5, and he will be our mapping coordinator, our mapping lead for the agency. As you can see, we are looking to hire 2 more people with the open positions that we have across the state. We cover 331 NFIP communities within the state of Mississippi. You just heard us talk about damages. We do have the experience in damages. Our state is damage threshold seems high. As we are talking now, we are looking at possibly a system coming into the Gulf as early as Monday to Tuesday of next week. We will start preparations on that as soon as the end of this week starts coming in floodplain management. Talk about planning and getting ready. In order to have a successful substantial damage team in floodplain management, you have to be prepared. After or when a disaster is striking, it's too late to be prepared. You need to have equipment in place. You need to know how you're going to run the programs within your community. Are you going to run it on tablet-based programs? Are you going to run it on a paper or data entry point type program? These are different things that you will see once the live program starts taking place with Gareth and Jonathan, that you'll understand better about the tablet and the paper program and the data entry. Personnel, who's going to do the field inspections? If you do field inspections on paper, who's going to be your single data entry point at the end of the day? And yes, Public information officers. Anytime that you have a large disaster to strike, first people that will show up is the media. Are you authorized to talk to them? Do you have a number that they can call of somebody that they can talk to? Proper use of different programs. The Substantial Damage Estimator Program by FEMA is the program that the state of Mississippi uses. And you have to use this program and get familiar with it. You can't just start it when the disaster hits. Partnerships. Your federal, state, and local partnerships are very important. At the time of the disaster, that is not the time that you want to meet your local emergency manager. Your local emergency manager knows where the damages are happening. They can give you addresses. They can give you a general area. Your planning department, your building official, all these people, you want to have that partnership and that working friendship already made before the disaster happens. This type of being prepared will help you work the disaster a lot sooner and a lot quicker, as people will start knocking on your door wanting permits to rebuild after a disaster strikes. So, substantial damage. What is it to floodplain management? Well, if you are an NFIP community, you have regulations that guide substantial damage. And it is based in the 44 Code of Federal Regulations. 59.1 is the definitions. Substantial damage means damage of any origin. This is very important. Damage of any origin does not just have to be from flood. It could be fire, earthquake, etc. Sustained by a structure where the cost of repairing the structure to its before damage condition would equal or exceed 50% of the market value before the damage occurred. This is very important. 50% is the trigger, and the market value is before the damage occurred. You cannot talk about substantial damage without talking about substantial improvement. They go hand in hand. And you can see in the definition of substantial improvement where it talks about reconstruction, rehabilitation. Those are actions that you take during a substantial damage type event. Also, some exceptions to the substantial improvement category would be existing health, sanitary, or safety violations. These violations would have to be noted before the damage or improvement began, and also your historic structures that are on your list of state or federal registry. Also, this in the state of Mississippi, and as I talk, I forgot to say this, we're going to tell you how the state of Mississippi approaches this program. We may talk about things that don't fit within the state of Utah or within your community, and that's fine. You can massage and maneuver this program in any way that works in your community and your state the best. We're just showing you what works for our state the best. Substantial improvement is one of these areas where you have cumulative. So we have a cumulative damage that 98% of all our communities in the state of Mississippi has 10-year cumulative damage. So if you get 25% damage this year, and 8 years from now, you get 25 or 26 or more % damage. That structure is now substantially damaged and must come in compliance with the local ordinance that's in effect at the time and the effective flood insurance rate maps. So talking about substantial damage, we're usually getting emails, phone calls, and conference calls with National Weather Service before any large event. So we know ahead of time that we have a system moving in, whether it be rain, tornadic, hurricane, tropical storm, etc. So we have an idea that some type of system's moving in that could cause damages across the state. Once local EMA directors start getting reports of damage, This damage is reported to MEMA Communications. MEMA Communications then sends out an email to all MEMA and local emergency managers showing the damages that has occurred across the state. As you can see, these damages could go up and down as the days progress into the event. After we start getting the emails, Mississippi Emergency Management uses a tool called Crisis Track. Crisis Track is a tool that is used to track damage across the state of Mississippi. It is used more in the sense of public assistance and individual assistance to keep track of dollar amounts. So when you reach certain thresholds, you know whether you're reaching a federal declaration or not. However, working in tandem as we have here in Mississippi Emergency Management, floodplain management was at the table. We requested certain items to be put in Crisis Track. And as we move forward, we will show you in this Crisis Track system how we start weeding through all the damages that's happening across the state and show you how we know which communities are, which structures the communities must focus their attention on. So when you open up Crisis Track, it will give you an existing incident. Once you come down, a drop-down box will say what incident that you want to pull from. So you'll know the damages that happened during that incident. For this purpose, we're going to use a severe weather event that happened on April the 12th of 2020. When you select that event, you come to a view that you can look at exporting certain personnel, equipment records, tracks, jurisdictions, documents, different teams and tasks that's in the field. For us in floodplain management, our biggest thing is view, the operational view. So we click on the operational view and this is what comes up. As you can see on the left-hand side, every county within the state of Mississippi, including the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians, would be listed. As you can see on the right-hand side, the state of Mississippi with all the houses and businesses and different infrastructure things. This is all the damages that happened the day of April 12th across the state of Mississippi. As we click, we can click in and start zeroing in on an area that we have concern about. On April the 12th, we had 2 long track tornadoes that went across the southern part of our state. As you can see here with the comparison, this area is right here, if you can see my pointer, that we're highlighting. So, as I told you earlier, we had a seat at the table when this program was being developed for Mississippi Emergency Management. And one of our questions was, could we overlay the National Flood Hazard Layer to these damages so we could see the damages that was actually happening inside the special flood hazard area? Because in floodplain management, these are the damages that we're concerned about in doing the substantial damage estimate. So we worked with Crisis Track. Crisis Track was able to overlay the special flood hazard area. So as you can see from this sample from Crisis Track on April the 12th, there's a lot of damages that happened. You can see the one red arrow in the blue that shows you that was damage inside the special flood hazard area. However, if you can see my cursor, these damages up here are clearly outside the special flood hazard area. So we don't have to go door to door with some type of program looking at a map to see whether or not these damaged structures was inside the special flood hazard area. So we can automatically say, no, these are not. Some of these that are closer to the special flood hazard area, may take a second look, and we may have to go to them to see whether or not the structure was actually in. But as you can see, out of maybe the 15 structures that's here, now we have cut it down that we're maybe only having to go look at 5 out of 15. This saves us time, saves the local community time, and are able to focus their efforts, especially the floodplain manager, in specific areas. If you click on one of the colored diagrams, this is what comes up. What's so unique about this tool is a citizen can upload this information to Crisis Track. The local government can upload this information to Crisis Track. Our individuals at Mississippi Emergency Management that's with the Field Services Bureau can upload this information to Crisis Track. Anybody that has a phone and has the app can actually upload this information, and we can start viewing it in real time here at Mississippi Emergency Management. So this is information that you get, let alone name, address, phone number. So we are starting to locate these structures. Not only that, it has an area where a picture can be uploaded to the program, and you can start seeing the damages that is actually happening to this structure inside the special flood hazard area. As you can tell, this home no longer has a roof. This would be an area that the floodplain manager would have to go out to, would have to provide substantial damage estimations in order to rebuild in this area. We have a lot of deep flooding in Mississippi Emergency Management, or Mississippi in general. Across our 3 coastal counties, we have storm surge that are from tropical storms. Along the western border of our state, we have the mighty Mississippi River. So these pictures come to us from Mississippi River flooding, which is on the wet side of the levee. The house on the left that you see is actually a house that's not slab on grade, as you can tell from the electrical lines above it. It was actually raised, but basically the water was up into the attic of the structure. On the left, I talked about partnerships earlier. This is a unique partnership that we see. We have Mississippi Yazoo Delta Levee Board. We have the Coahoma County Fire Department, Coahoma County Sheriff's Department, Coahoma County EMA, and Mississippi Emergency Management, 3 different bureaus represented. At this point, we're launching boats into the water so we can tell when the river crests how high the water actually got. You may say, you can see that high water mark after the water goes down. And in most cases, that is correct. However, in this instance, we did have pockets of homes and cabins that was not built compliant, that the height of the flood put the level of the flood over the top of the house. So we had to know those individual areas where the water actually went over the top of the house to make for sure that we were not missing high water marks. Example of another high water mark after the water goes down of damages that you can see. This is another damage, I think, from Mississippi Pearl River that we had. These was pre-firm structures. It's clear to see the high water mark right here on the red structure, if you can see my cursor. However, on the right-hand side, the water mark is basically right below, if you can see my cursor. What's happening in this picture is something that we call wicking. The water has stayed on the structure, and the type wood, the water basically runs up and does damages basically higher than where the water line is. So that would be damages that you would have to take into effect. Once you get into the substantial damage program, it's going to ask you about how long did the water stay up on the structure. This is one of the reasons that it's asking you about how long the water stayed on the structure. The longer the water stayed up, the greater the damage is on the structure. This is our teams. So when a community has damages, we let them know that they're having damages inside the special flood hazard area. Mississippi Emergency Management offers technical assistance in providing the communities to meet the substantial damage threshold. In this picture on the left, we use the tablet form. And as we use the tablets, we've used paper and tablets. We have found that using tablets, we cut down on mistakes after we turn the paperwork in, because the program runs and we know that it's running, and we get a substantial damage reading before we leave the structure. So this is just the type of inspections that we have learned that helps us move quicker and faster throughout the field. A lot of our communities do not have tablets and they still use the paper form. The paper form and the tablet form goes hand in hand. The only difference is electronic entry, either in the field or electronic entry whenever you get back to the office to a computer. Again, this is a picture of the team out helping a local community meet. I think this was this year, backwater flood in Mississippi, where I think there was 900 to 1,000 residential structures that we helped do substantial damage on. Also, coordination and partnerships. In the picture on the left is, of course, you see the team, but you also see our federal partner there. Also, this was a local fire department that the locals has set. So the locals was there. Every morning we met to know what teams was going into what area. We made for sure teams knew. Also, you have to take safety, for example. Here in Mississippi, we was working probably in 100 to 105 degree temperature. Plus, we had the humidity. We had one staff that they recognized quickly we needed to get to air conditioning and cool off and get some fluids in them because they was becoming dehydrated. So this is a part of knowing your team, meeting, making for sure you calibrate, and also start to discuss any issues or problems that you may have or that you're seeing in the field. So team meetings before, lunch, and after is almost mandatory as you start doing substantial damage on a big scale. On the right-hand side, you heard me mention PIOs, public information officers. If you look in the back where the vehicle is, that is a local television station sitting there filming. If you have a major disaster, news media will be there. You need to know ahead of time who's authorized to talk to the news media, and you need to have their name and number on you. So if they do approach you, you can direct them to the appropriate person. As you can see in the picture, that's a homeowner. So a lot of times homeowners will be here. A lot of times homeowners want to tell you about their properties. You have to listen to their properties. They may or may not agree with the assessment overall, but we do take time because this is damages that has happened to either their business, their home, and at the end of the day, your substantial damage estimates is go determine whether or not they have to spend money to bring that structure into compliance. So a summary of the operations that we do for substantial damage here. So basically, we get an email from MEMA Communications telling us about the damages across the state. If it's a flood, we start coordinating our efforts to get in boats to start looking at high water marks once the water starts cresting. Number 3, we open up crisis track. We start looking at the damages inside crisis track. We overlay the National Flood Hazard Layer for Mississippi on it to tell what structures was damaged inside the special flood hazard area, whether those structures demand our attention from the local's floodplain manager. Information is shared with the local floodplain manager. We give addresses. We tell the local floodplain manager where these damages are basically happening and that they need to get with their local emergency manager to make for sure all damages is being shared and that information is being shared. Request assistance with FEMA's SDE program. Our local floodplain managers can write a request to us here at Mississippi Emergency Management, Floodplain Management Bureau for assistance with the SDE software. We will provide that assistance with the software for them to meet the compliance of their local flood damage prevention ordinance. And then continued follow-up. We provide continued follow-up on all substantially structures until mitigated. If there is a substantially damaged structure that is turned into Mississippi Emergency Management, we follow that substantial damage structure until it is mitigated to 100%. So that's it either being elevated to meet the ordinance and the effective flood maps, or it could be acquisition of the structure and returning it to natural land. This is our normal along our Mississippi Gulf Coast and along our Mississippi River. This is, to a lot of people, extreme elevation. However, if you drive along our Mississippi Gulf Coast or along our Mississippi River, this is the normal. This is the type of elevation that you do see in our areas. The next picture that I'm going to show you, this is the reason why substantial damage is important. This was a Mississippi River flood again. And as you can tell, this structure received minimal damage. It was elevated correctly. It was elevated to and above with freeboard, the special flood hazard area. If this is a business, if this is a home, or even if it's just a weekend getaway cabin, the owners of this structure is getting back into their home, their business, their cabin with very minimum work because the floodwaters did not reach the inside. So basically they're going to repair some boards, they're going to repair some dirt, but their business is back up and operating very quickly, which helps to the economy of that local government. And it also gets, if it's a homeowner, gets your people back up and going quicker after a flooding disaster. These people are going into and getting back into the everyday normal routine a lot quicker than the first picture you saw of the water to the attic. Those people are having to spend months and months on repairs before they can get back into their normal routine. And Kathy, back to you.
Thank you, Stacy. I really appreciate that. It's good to see a look at your program. I would like to have all your tools, but we'll get to see, I know next, some information about the SD tool that we can all have access to. I'm going to launch a poll right now and get everybody active for a minute. And so go ahead and answer that.
Some of the floor falling through. And then electrical, another one that we try to make sure that we all understand. And some of you might be building officials or have a better understanding of this, but the way we look at it is, the standard electrical outlet is about 18 inches off the ground. So if water gets any higher than that, that's when we start to see major damage seeping into the electrical component there. Another big thing is knowing whether or not majority of the electrical system is in the roof or is it in the floor. So a lot of mobile homes, they get a very high percentage on electrical because the majority of the electrical runs in the floor. So it can just be a very small amount of water that can damage a lot of the electrical system. Appliances, what I'd like to say of this is it's not traditionally all the appliances laying around in the house. We only assign these as permanent fixed appliances within the house. So your stove, maybe dishwasher and fridge, depending on the house. But that one, as long as you're consistent on how you assign that damage, you'll be okay. And then interior finish, again, that's just your drywall and all that. So you can get a good idea that if your interior finish and exterior finish are usually going to be pretty similar because of the height of the water is about the same on the inside and outside, that's usually where you'll see a good comparison to make sure you're not making any mistakes. So from these elemental percentages, the cost assigned to them is determined through the program, and